So I don't typically talk to you guys about renting because I'm a mortgage lender and I believe in home ownership. But I'm currently sitting in the Carlin, a completely for rent project that's beautiful, with the bougiest property manager slash realtor in Reno, Stefano. And today we're going to have a different kind of conversation. So I will tell you this, when I meet with buyers and we're getting them pre-approved and I do a buy versus rent and I show them their potential return on investment to switch to being a homeowner from renting, I never rent shame. I never say that rent is 100% interest or you're putting money in a hole. I think it was older generations that thought that way. There's renting that fits a lot of different lifestyles and can be a really smart decision financially today in today's day and age. But the thing that I think is not talked about very often is a strategy for renting well. What do you think about that?
I think it's important to consider, like any other place that you put your money, any other investment that you do or that you make, you have to make sure that you're getting what you need out of it. So for renting, a big perk is going to be money in your pocket immediately. You are going to have a lot more upfront costs when you're purchasing a home than when you're renting a home. Yes, you have to do first month's rent, maybe last month's rent, maybe a deposit that's capped at 3 times the rent, but it's still going to be a lot less than a 20% down payment on a home, which, to remind the viewers, we don't need 20%. So I think that's where the conversation starts. You don't usually see people going straight to purchasing a home for a reason. They buy first, they save up the money while still having a nice place to live that they like, and then they take the next step. For some people, that next step never comes, and that's okay.
There's a lot of cities, different markets where it makes sense to rent. And you'll even see sometimes people renting where they live, but owning other properties that they rent out. A lot of times, in the rent shaming conversation, they say, you're paying someone else's mortgage. We've talked about this before. Again, I'm so against rent shaming because I think you're paying for something. You're paying for a place to live.
Correct.
That's a very important expense. And where you live is a huge part of your lifestyle. Sometimes buying isn't going to fit with your lifestyle. And who am I to say what's right or wrong when you're the one living that lifestyle?
And at the end of the day, it's all about supply demand, like anything else. If there's rentals on the market that people are renting actively, then obviously there's a demand for that. That means that there's lifestyles out there that lend themselves to actually renting out properties as opposed to purchasing properties. I think a lot of landlords and a lot of people that use their homes as investments and they actually rent them out to people understand that. And that's why you see this huge surge specifically in Midtown.
Well, and when you say, you're paying off the landlord's mortgage, you're kind of like demonizing the landlord.
Sure.
And there's a lot of landlords, myself included, who aren't renting our properties at a profit. We're just renting them to cover themselves.
You heard it from the source.
As a
landlord, exactly.
As part of a retirement strategy, where someday these mortgages will be paid off and these properties will earn us income, but we're not trying to gouge anyone. And I think there's this judgment that needs to be removed from the whole housing situation.
Yeah.
Because housing is expensive. We're in an affordability crisis when it comes to renting or buying or anything. And the more that we can put more housing units on, I think a lot of people don't understand this. More housing is better for all housing. When apartments go up, when projects like this, luxury homes that are for rent, go on the market, eventually, in the long run, this improves the cost of housing for all of Reno.
Correct.
So I think it's really exciting to see projects like this coming up. You don't usually see a rental staged so beautifully. So tell me about the character of this project.
It's all about differentiation. You don't see rental stage because you do have landlords who, I don't want to say penny pinchers, but they do want to hold back on their expenses so that they can eventually get more income from the property.
You don't work with those.
I don't work with those.
He doesn't manage my properties. They're not nice enough. He said no.
We very politely declined her properties. However, it's just part of selling. It's like when you sell a home, you're still selling a lifestyle. So when people walk in, they need to see that they can make their life just as good as owning a home when they're renting a home. And that's also important. I think there's also this stigma against renting. It seems almost like you're not making enough or you're not getting ahead of the game of life if you're renting. That's not the case. And part of what we do is we want to show people that at Marmot Properties, specifically with so many of our units being, A-class, even A+ luxury, we want to take that stigma away for people.
And like we said, there's so many reasons why renting could make sense.
Correct.
So I really appreciate you having this conversation with me, because my goal is always for you guys to have you be confident in the financial decisions you're making. That might be to rent, that might be to own, but the more conversations we have around your options, the more you're aware of your options, the better off you are.